Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make 5 easy summer crafts. And the idea for this video comes from the Art Room, and the Art Room is a Discord server where artists with YouTube channels can join and talk about art and YouTube and all things related to art videos. And each month they have a prompt, and this month's prompt is fun in the sun, so I thought it would be fun to try and make some summery crafts. So let's get on with it. So the first craft I'm going to show you how to make is a ice lolly or popsicle notebook. So what you have to do first is find a plain notebook. You can pick one up in a stationery store or a supermarket or somewhere like that. I have a little A6 black notebook which I wanted to make a little bit more colourful because it was a bit boring as it was. So what I did was I drew a ice lolly design onto some printer paper, and it's quite a simple design. I just drew the outline of the shape and then cut it into 3 different sections, and they will be 3 different colours. And I also drew a little popsicle stick, and then once I had cut them out I drew around them onto some different coloured felt, and I obviously used a brown piece for the popsicle stick, and then I cut them out. And don't worry too much about cutting the pen off, like the line of the pen on the felt, because you can always have this as the back and stick it down on this side. So the other colours I used a blue piece and a pink piece and a orange piece. But you can use whatever colours you like, and you don't have to stick to 3 segments. If you don't want to, you can just do 2 segment or 1 segment, or have as many segments as you like and have a multicoloured lolly. So once you have cut out all of your felt shapes, you then need to attach them to your notebook. And you can do this by using glue. You can use a PVA glue if it's a paper-based notebook, for example if it's like a cardboard cover. But if it's more of a hardback cover, you might be better off using some hot glue, which is what I did. But do be careful with the hot glue gun because obviously it's very hot, and make sure you have a responsible adult around to help you if you need to. I didn't have a responsible adult around with me, and I ended up burning myself a couple of times. So learn from my mistakes, guys. So once I had stuck down the felt, I decided to decorate it with some ribbon. I put a little bit of ribbon in between the purple and the blue bit, and because the ribbon didn't quite reach the ends, I decided to add some buttons on each end and in the middle, and I think this worked out quite well. But you can use whatever you like to decorate your lolly. You don't even have to decorate it, you can just leave it plain if you want to. It's totally up to you. You might have some fun beads, some I don't know, some ribbon. You might want to put lots of ribbon on. It's totally up to you how you want to decorate your lolly. So I am just attaching 3 buttons onto it with my hot glue gun, and a hot glue gun will hold them in place quite nicely. And I decided I wanted to have a happy smiley face on my lolly, so I cut out 2 black eyes from some black felt and attached them again with the glue gun. And then I cut out a little smiley mouth too, because he's a happy little lolly because it's summer and he really likes the sun. So I'm just now attaching all of the mouth and the eyes to the lolly, and then I'm using a white Posca pen, but you can use some white acrylic if you don't have a white Posca pen, to add some shines in his eyes. And I think this looks really cute. I really like his little happy smiley face. And I also decided I wanted to add some sprinkles to my lolly. So in the blue section I used a bit of PVA glue and some little beads, some little tiny seed beads that I have lying around. But you can use whatever you like. You can cut up some little bits of paper, or you can use some glitter. I did use some glitter glue later on in the orange part to make some sprinkles too. So to do this I just drew some random little lines in all different directions to make it look like those kind of long straight sprinkles that you get. And I also added some little drops to look like he was dripping. And here is the final result. I really like how it turned out, and I think he's a really cute happy little lolly. So the next craft that I'm going to show you how to make is some summer clothing washing line bunting, and what I used for this was some origami paper, but if you don't have any origami paper, just normal printer paper or colour paper will work just as well, and you can draw your own patterns on. So I outlined my shapes, my different clothing shapes on the origami paper and cut them out, and I did a variation of swimsuits, skirts, shorts, dresses, and once I had cut them out I decorated them with some odds and ends. So I had put a couple of buttons on, a couple of bits of string, so a little bit of string for a belt on one of the dresses for example. And you don't have to do this, but I thought it would look good on just a few of them to give it a bit of variation, and I drew a couple of lines on the shorts as well to give it some pockets. And once you have all your clothes made, you just need to cut a length of string and use some mini clothes pegs, which you can get in quite a few art shops or craft shops, and just attach them in any way you like, arrange them in any way you like. So I went for a variation in length, so for example I put the shorts, then the swimming costume, and then the longer summer dress, and then something shorter again, but just have fun. This can be a little bit fiddly, so just be careful you don't rip the paper, but once it's done it will look really cool, and you can cut it so you can put it on a greetings card or put it on your desk, or just hang it wherever you like. And here is the final result. I think it looks really cute, and it is really easy and simple to make. So now I'm going to show you how to make some little flip-flop charm necklaces, and for this you will need some shrink plastic, and you can buy shrink plastic from Amazon quite cheaply or from selected arts and crafts stores. And I am using white shrink plastic because it has a rough surface and I wanted to use colour pencils, but you can use clear shrink plastic and you can sand it down if you want to use colour pencils, or you can use Sharpies on them as well. They will work really nicely. So I drew out my flip-flop design and coloured it in, and one thing you have to bear in mind, other than the fact obviously it will shrink quite considerably, is that once you bake shrink plastic the colours appear much darker, so you don't want to go too dark unless that's what you want. So on this flip-flop I drew some little circles just to make it a little bit more interesting, and I outlined it with a darker green. And once I had drawn my design I cut it out, and shrink plastic is really quite hard to cut out, so you have to be really careful, but you can just use ordinary scissors. Just take your time with it because it's harder to cut out than paper and you don't want to ruin it and start again. So once I had cut out one design I had enough space to do another one, so I drew another flip-flop. This time I drew it in blue and red because I didn't want to waste the excess shrink plastic that I had. So I drew that and I cut it out, and once you have cut out your designs you need to punch a hole in them, and you can do this with a normal hole punch. Just be careful that you actually put the hole in the charm and it doesn't come out of the charm, because your jump ring won't fit if you do it like that. And then you need to follow the instructions on your shrink plastic, your specific shrink plastic, because all shrink plastic has different instructions. So my instructions were to bake at 160 degrees centigrade for 3 minutes, I think it was. Yeah, so when they come out of the oven they will have shrunk and got thicker, and they look really cute and small. So what I did to finish them off is, firstly I chose some glitter nail varnish which matched the flip-flops I had drawn. So I used a sparkly green on one and silver on the other, and then once that had dried I finished it off with some clear nail varnish. And nail varnish works really well on shrink plastic, and it makes them look really shiny and glossy. And once I had let the nail varnish dry, you really need to make sure that you let the nail varnish dry, because if it doesn't dry properly then you will have issues attaching it. So once the nail varnish had dried I attached my little flip-flops with some jump rings to my necklaces. So this is what my necklaces look like when they were finished, and I think they look really cute and sparkly, and I'm definitely going to wear them this summer. So now I'm going to show you how to make a really cool sunglasses case, and for this you will need a sheet of fabric which you need to fold in half, and I'll put the measurements on screen now which I used. And then you need to measure out from the open end 2 centimeters and then another 2 centimeters, and you need to do this on both sides because this will indicate where the gap is for the drawstring. and then you need to pin the fabric together and then sew it. So to begin with, you need to sew from the very top of the opening to the first mark, to the first 2 centimeter mark, and when you reach this mark, stop and then begin your sewing again at the other 2 centimeters mark, because this will act as the hole and you don't want to sew it up. And be careful with the sewing, because obviously it's a sharp needle. I pricked myself a few times because sewing isn't my strength. And you don't need to be amazingly neat, but try and keep your stitches quite small and in a straight line, because you don't want a wonky case. But you know, do the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, because you are going to be turning it inside out so you won't see it. And yeah, this can take some time, so maybe put some Netflix on, put some YouTube on in the background and just sew away. So while I finish off this bit of sewing here, I will introduce myself to you if you are new. So if you are new to my channel, firstly, welcome. My name is Katie. I make art videos, a variation of speed paints, challenges, all that kind of thing. And I have a little mouse character called Charlie McNeil, and he was the little puppet who featured in the beginning in the hat and the sunglasses. So if you're new, do feel free to subscribe and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos, because YouTube is experimenting with subscription boxes at the moment, and sometimes people don't get the videos in their sub boxes, so make sure you hit the bell. So once you have finished sewing the sides of the case together, you need to turn it inside out. And just a little tip, if you have a piece of fabric like mine which has a pattern only on one side, you need to make sure that you fold this pattern inwards at the beginning, because you will be turning it inside out. You don't want an inside out glasses case. That won't be very good. So once you have turned the glasses case inside out, then you need to fold down the opening flaps. So you need to fold the inside down to roughly the second 2 centimeter mark which you made earlier, and this will encase the drawstring. So once you have folded it down, you can pin it in place, and once you have pinned it in place, you will need to sew all the way around as neatly as you can, because this time it will show, the stitches will show. So try and be as straight as you can and just sew all the way around to keep that flap in place. So once you have sewn the flap in place, you will need to take 3 lengths of embroidery thread and braid them together. And a tip for doing this is to tie a knot in one end and make sure you leave quite a bit of excess, and tape it to your table with some masking tape or some washi tape, and that will hold it in place. And then you just need to braid it, and you need to braid it about 30 centimeters because it needs to go all the way around the top of the sunglasses case. And you need to do 2 of these. Well, you can do 1, but I think it looks better with 2 as it looks more balanced. So once you have done 2 of them, you then need to thread it through the top of the sunglasses case, through the little holes from earlier which we left from the 2 centimeter markings. And this is really tricky, and it might take you a few attempts. It certainly took me a few attempts. And to make it easier, you can attach it to a pin or a safety pin, and that will make it easier to feel and to thread around the outside. So with each one of these cords that you have made, you need to thread it through all the way round and back out through the same hole and tie them together, and you need to do this with both of them. So once you have the drawstrings in place, you can finish them off with some beads, and I chose some beads that had a similar pattern and similar colour scheme to the fabric, and I tied 1 on each end, and I think this finishes it off quite nicely. But you don't have to do this, you don't have to put beads on if you don't want to, it's totally up to you. But yeah, I think it looks quite cool. And then all you need to do is find your favourite pair of sunglasses and pop them inside. So now we have arrived at the final craft for today's video, and I'm now going to show you how to make a flower hair slide. So what you will need is some scraps of fabric and 2 different size circle pieces. So I have some sellotape and a jar lid, and what you have to do is draw 6 circles of each size onto some scraps of fabric and cut them out and place them together. And what you then need to do is fold each circle into quarters and get a needle and thread and bunch up each of them, and sew roughly. It's quite hard to explain, but I think you can see what I'm doing better than I can explain it. And then you need to sew them all together, so on the same one. And then once you have them all sewn together securely, you then need to add a button to finish it off, and that will act as the middle of the flower. And you can fix this with a hot glue gun, and the beauty of this craft is that the hot glue gun actually hides all of the bad sewing, so it's perfect for me. And to neaten up the back, you cut out a circle. I used a bit of washi tape to draw the circle and cut it out and glue it on with some hot glue gun to neaten up the back. And this is really easy and quick, and they look really funky and cool. So you will need to do this with both sizes that you cut out, so you will have a bigger one and a smaller one. And again, be careful with the hot glue gun. I think this is one of the instances which I burnt myself, so make sure you're careful. And when you have both of the flowers together, you need to get a hair slide or hair grip, and you can get these from craft stores, and you can then glue both of the flowers onto the hair grip with a hot glue gun. And then once you have done this, you will have a nice fancy hair slide, but you don't have to make a hair slide with them. You can glue them to a safety pin and make brooches. That will work just as well. So here is the final hair slide, and I think it looks really cool and really classy, but it was really quick and easy to make. So here are all the summer crafts all finished, and do let me know in the comments below which one was your favourite. I think my favourite are the flip-flop necklaces. I'll definitely wear them quite a lot this summer. And also, if you make any of these yourself, please do tag me on social media in photos, because I would love to see them. All links are in the description below. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, emotionally, please do leave it a like down below, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye for now.